Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here with the 23rd episode, I hope, of Cultist Simulator. So we've been a little worried about money lately. So we've got nine on the board right now. 2 of those are locked up in an investigation. We are going to be finishing the capital reasonably soon, but my hope was to just sort of barrel straight through into the Shires. And we are definitely going to run out of money if I don't get working on painting soon. So that's one of the things that's being worked on right now. Worthless. I produced nothing of any use or significance at all. I should be ashamed of myself. Still, if I have a reputation, it might still sell. So the reason we did this, I believe, was because of the restlessness. Normally at this point I'm going to be doing pure passion paintings for a bit. And again, that is going to make life difficult for the expeditions, but in the worst case scenario, if it does come down to that, we will sell the Iron Spintra. We will be doing some work with the commissions. And I suppose in the worst case, we can also start relying on some of my followers to, either burgle houses or abduct people. So that's going to be the sort of the short version of what we're up to. We've got fresh air and exercise now. Right, yes, that was because we had an affliction, but the wood came through for us again. So I think we're in a good position to keep going. My recent work is considered notable. I've exhibited the latest paintings publicly. Surely someone will buy something. Now that's 4 staleness now. That's a huge problem for me because it means a really long time where I'm not painting, which means I'm not earning money. But what I can do is start doing some other activities that will help me earn money, particularly Spintra. So, take a reason, apply that towards our edge commission. This may be useful for a commission. And treasures lie before us. So we'll get at least 1 funds back from the expedition, although it wouldn't hurt to... Actually, I think we get 2 because I might have put something in to replace the old one. We'll find out soon. And a dozen lights blaze. There is no place for shadow in these rites, and no place for mercy. It's also fair to say that if I get short on money, that we always have Poppy as an outside option. So let's take Dr. Redeem, turn in the Lantern Commission, what the doctor requested. The Moth Commission will be a little bit more helpful because I'd want to sell iron before I sell bronze or silver. Whenever the principle of heart is implicated, I may gain vitality, so more than we really know what to do with at this point. And let's move on the Lantern, I think. As nice as it would be to move up Winter, clearly it's more helpful for me to be working on Lantern. So that's going to require erudition and... fascination, or a rarefied mind, which we do have. So, in 159 seconds we'll lose the erudition, but we'll get some from Dr. Redeem. So it's a bit of a narrow path, because if we don't get the erudition from turning in the commissions, then I'm going to fail the objective. But I think either through the decay of the lesson learned, which might be too late, or through Dr. Redeem, we should be able to manage it. So let's take our unmerciful mantras. There is a proverb among the practitioners of the invisible arts. Glory visits the house without walls. I would like to know about the glory. I received the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. We'll also turn in with Madame Bichet. Now again, I want to deal with the evidence at some point, but we don't have the Callagine yet, so... I have a little bit of a wait for that. I did make the Moth Commission, right? Apparently I didn't. My bad. So, I could send Sylvia out to deal with it, or I could wait a few seconds. I think, well, actually I don't have to divide it between those 2 options. Let's bring in some more bodies. This one is ready. And we have a Season of Visions coming up, so probably just as well I didn't try to get fascination for the study. My own heart pumps more strongly today. And the world as it is. Mirrors are calm, the sun is steady, the glory recedes. I'm sane, if that means anything. And moving up, we've got another restlessness coming up. That'll be useful in a painting, but the focus right now is going to be on passion. Now, doing the passion painting at this point is probably going to be a risk, but it's one that I want to take on. We do have the fleeting reminiscence. I do need to try and generate some kind of income. So a dozen lights blaze. There's no place for shadow in these rites, and no place for mercy. So I'm holding off on doing some of the more intense lantern activities because my lore is currently locked up. Although I'm curious if I can get away with the Mantis Glimpse and the Noonstone now that I think of it. I think that's a little too much to ask, but let's try it. So if we were to try and bring Eldridge in... The Noonstone's higher than I thought it was, but I don't think it'll be enough to bring Eldridge in. And that's what I get for not... for guessing. My follower will kneel as a novice and rise as an initiate. I will administer the necessary oaths myself. Probably good that I tested that then. Okay, the sick room grows close and stale. Time to get up. So, we have been going through the stag door. The lantern may actually wind up pushing us a little bit further, but again, we still need to wait for the the improvement. Wisdom is a country, and these are its maps. So let's keep going through the snag door. We can always pick up more things. There is the risk of the fascination, but we won't be going there for another minute. So, and I've finished the manuscript, so we'll turn that in when we can. There is the temptation to do the moth commission right away, but I have the passion available. I pretty much want that always on cooldown. So let's do a painting about... I'm going to have to do the lesson learnt here because I'm going to need this erudition in as an input. This should have an impact. Or I could do a painting of the percussagant to preserve it. Strathcoin's cozy sanctum. A fire smolders in the grate. Glass cases display hard-won trinkets. We must seize what we can quickly. Strathcoin may have already telephoned the police. Out into the night, we escape unseen, but the next day there are reports of a fire at Strathcoin's. Did someone knock a live coal to the hearthrug, or did Strathcoin destroy the place himself as part of some larger scheme? So here we've got the wainscot histories. That's probably not going to be as helpful to us because we are sort of overburdened with secret histories. We have another copy of this, another volume of the Locksmith's Dream, Stolen Reflections. We have the treatise on the underplaces, the Journal of Alessandro Lacrosse, so that's going to give us another language. We don't have anything we need to translate with it yet. And Traveling at Night, Volume 3. So, good work to everyone. I think I do need to use the Callagine, so I'm going to... Actually, you know what? We are going to paint the percussagant. And I'm going to go to... I was debating on going to Oriflamme's, but maybe we make the... I do kind of like the idea of keeping a good reserve for the last minute. While we wait, we'll get the pawn to search the city. I have found somewhere unusual. Actually, I lost my nerve. I'm gonna get the percussagant to be the one searching things out for me. This is a puzzle with missing pieces. I might find those pieces in odd corners of scholarship. So as long as we don't use the rarefied mind, which I don't think we can anyway, we'll be fine. I found someone whom I might pay to enact regrettable necessities. Now, this is the point where I could actually start you know, accumulating a few people for the purposes of sacrifices. But that does mean notoriety, and I obviously made a choice to avoid generating notoriety. So I think I'm going to let it be for now. It did occur to me that I do have the risk. I think I'm actually going to be in a situation where I need to do a painting because of the restlessness. Maybe we'll use that as an input for an initiation. I don't know. We'll figure it out. There it is. Is that it? He navigates, now you are the map. He illuminates, you were the darkness. He is not compassionate, you will not show compassion. Our compass is knowledge, and our course is glory. So, I didn't read Eldridge's description, my apologies, but Eldridge is waiting patiently until it's time to knife someone again. And we are going to get the Callagine to go and destroy some evidence. My scheme will most likely succeed. There is always a chance that something will go awry. My most recent work has attracted a couple of callers. With luck, something will sell, so happy to get the contentment. We didn't wind up with any fascination, so our fears weren't realized in that particular case. We've got some pocket erudition if I need it. I think I might actually need that for... I may need that for the winter when the time comes. Yes. But the question comes down, how do I want to spend the time with the work verb? I think in this case we'll do a moth commission. And we'll see whether or not we can outrun the... Actually, I think in this case we can outrun the restlessness now. There's a great chamber in the manses through which a painted river flows. The vagabond, it is claimed, painted it from memory in the years before she left the house. Certainly there are histories contained in its design. I traced them with my hand last night. There were fragments of aquamarine paint beneath my nails, flecks of gold leaf when I was done. Alright, I'm going to take a quick second just to reflect. I've got books to read, but we were working on lanterns, so that's fine. We're destroying the evidence. We still want to get enough people inside of the cult. I need to earn money, but I can't earn money through Dream. We know what we're going to be doing with our work. Our work verb's going to be tied between 3 tasks for the foreseeable future. Lowering my staleness, lowering my staleness, selling, that's explore if I want to sell my possessions. Doing commissions and summoning, resummoning things like the Callagine and the Percussigan. Percussigan's obviously going to be the first one for that job. So, I think we keep going through the stag door for the time being. The stag door is the Adept's Gate. To pass it is to be initiated into the first true mystery of the House of the Sun. The headgear weeps to see me enter where it cannot, but it must let me pass. The scarred valves of the door grind open. Sorry, I should have read that. So we've got 10 seconds, I think, between... a little less, but we do have time between the restlessness and the passion to be able to use that in a painting. And now we use our rarefied mind, or alternatively, fascination, but again, it's good that we didn't do that in that case because we would have wound up with Season of Visions and have lost it. So let's go back with the Percussigant. This is more about preserving it rather than trying to get something from exploration. In fact, if anything, it's getting in the way of tasks like, potentially selling items. But again, I'm not gonna resist selling the Iron Spintra. It's more the idea that I would like to use that as a last possible resort, or possibly Pompey as a last possible resort. But in either case, I'd like to use these as a last resort so that when I need a big influx of cash, I can rely on it. Obviously, if you go into your reserves too often, that's going to be a pain to replace. Let's try the Painted River again. I dreamt of the mantis behind the white door, of the great space above the orchard, the space that overlooks the bounds, the space where the vagabond once painted her river. Painted ships passed upon the painted river. I met the painted eyes of a painted captain. She saluted, and the motion was like the layered movement of clouds. The sail of the ship was amber, and the captain's the eyes of green. Captain's eyes the green of new barley, and the river aquamarine. Now that I'm awake, I see those colors still. All right. So again, this is not about earning money. This is about getting rid of staleness at the possible risk of fascination. And because we're not immediately threatened by fascination, I'm going to just let that stay on the table, and we'll go for another trip to the mantis. A minion is returned. The evidence has been destroyed. I am a little safer. Okay, so the Calagine's going to wind up expiring for 53 seconds. Not ideal, but it's what we've got. I am going to turn in the commission with Madame Bichet and Count Jannings. And have what was requested. This would be a bigger worry if it was the percussivant, obviously, but I can live with a little bit of decay on the Calagine. I received the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. And then we'll turn in with Count Jannings. That's so that we can get the cooldown going, but we have an opportunity with Dr. Adim immediately afterwards. Now I understand. And we won't pay for paints until we're clear of the staleness. I received the currency of the secret world, and my patron has let tantalizing information slip. I never know why the Spintra doesn't wind up in the collected with everything else. I always need to give it a special deposit. It's not a particular inconvenience. I'm just always curious what causes that sort of stuff in a game. Okay, so let's talk with Dr. Adim, and then we can start thinking about how we bring people into the Mirror of Glory again. He would like a commission on the secret histories. We can do that. So the question now becomes, what do I do with the Calagian? It's got 90 seconds left. We've got 20 seconds left for the hireling. So in this case, it's a bit wasteful to just use the talk verb. In this case, we're going to let it run down. But the Percussagant and the Calagian are both going to be in a... they're going to be in a bit of a tight spot as far as resummoning is concerned. I may at some point want to sort of set them aside for the work verb and resummon or summon a second one. Obviously, if I go through the stag door a few times as well, I have the option of, I just have the option of getting the influences required to bring them in. But I don't know. It's nice to have the certainty of your existing summons to be able to use them. So let's carry on. Let's have a chat with Porter. Porter applies his razor and his scissors to the great advantage of his friends. My follower will kneel as a novice and rise as an initiate. I will administer the necessary oaths myself. And all that I am is here. So if we get a second fascination out of this, which is entirely possible, there is going to be a bit of fancy footwork I need to do. The glorious lore. I have increased my mastery of the glorious lore, which we call by its aspect, lantern. The Fenian invocation. The door in the eye navigates. He is not merciful, but first and always he illuminates. So good news for us here. We're actually going to try and use this to get past the stag door. Approaching the spider's door. In dreams, the silken sands are the place that whispers. Grey grains sift, grey weeds quiver. I have read of the angular tracks one must follow, of the sand's art, unseen, slow-stepping residents. And I should probably do some reading. So the Wainscot Histories, subtitled Stories from Behind the Walls, a miscellany of non-traditional histories compiled by William Gore, including battles not generally acknowledged and countries which appear on no map, told in a playful, apparently fictional manner. And my recent work has gone unnoticed. Nothing is sold. Perhaps the work is its own reward. I hope so. Oh, that was a real kick to the shins. It's not enough we don't make any money off of it. I earn another fascination off of it too. Alright. So we have a commission that we can do. We can work with Dr. Adim's Secret Histories. That's going to give us an Iron Spintra, so that's going to be something that we can use for Oriflammes if we feel that we're short on money, which we are starting to feel. And better not, I must be careful of the company I keep. So this has opened up the possibility for an expedition. We're going to do that. Ooh. Nope, I'm not waiting. So I was going to say, there's the risk of the investigation coming after us, but we will always be waiting if we wait for this sort of stuff. So we're just going to continue on. You know, we'll deal with things as we can. If we have more evidence after us, we either send the Callagine out or we send a follower out. So, the Forsaken Reach. Along the grey banks of the rotting river, the warehouses wait. Perhaps I've identified one where an unusual cargo was stored. The law does not touch this decaying fringe of the city. The mud here has claimed many lives, and there will, no doubt, be some wretched criminals or other layering in the warehouse. So my guess here would probably be Forge and Moth for this. So, Callagine twice over. The sands drain away like water, and beneath is the stone from which gods rose, so long ago. Ahead is the door, glistening like rain, its black surface beaded with blood, each drop heavy curved like a swollen tick. So we don't have the resources we need for the spider's door quite yet, but that's within our capabilities. I don't have any fleeting reminiscence to work with, but I do want to be a little careful in terms of generating fascination. The stag door is the Adept's Gate. To pass it is to be initiated into the first true mystery of the House of the Sun. The head Gearby weeps to see me enter where it cannot, but it must let me pass. The scarred valves of the door grind open. So I was kind of eager to try and finish off the capital for today's episode. I'm glad that we're at least starting it. There's a side of me that wants to send a heart follower just to try and clear out as much of the mystique as we can, but I think we're gonna get hit by the I think we're gonna be hit by the notoriety. He navigates, now you are the map. He illuminates, you were the darkness. He is not compassionate, you will not show compassion. Our compass is knowledge, and our course is glory. Porter goes unnoticed until he's ready. So the temptation here is just to add in another follower. So we've got quite a few disciples here. Rose would be the next one. We have, what is it? Rose, Violet, Rhaenyra, Clovette, Leo, and Valsine. So that's about 6 more. Essentially what that translates into is about 6 minutes of inductions. Then, of course, the hangers-on. Let's give this a shot. So I will bring Rose in. Rose is a sly miss, but loyal. So we also have the ability, now that we have the Finian Invocation, to get rid of fascination through the promotions as well. My follower will kneel as a novice and rise as an initiate. I will administer the necessary oaths myself. That wasn't the main reason for leveling up the lantern. The main reason for leveling up the lantern is I'm the mirror of glory, and it's very nice to have, you know, the ability to, to have the highest lore of your chosen principle. But it is also very useful that I can do these inductions. All right, it was common in that time to speak of the division of the sun, by which contemporaries understood the eruption of barbarian forces and of their uncouth gods. So yeah, furtive truth is definitely not something that we're bending over backwards to get, but every little bit helps. The Locksmith's Dreams, Stolen Reflections, the fourth volume of Teresa Gallagher's expansive work, no longer a discussion of the dreams of artisans, but a valuable survey of other works. The tone is calmer than that of Trespasses, but occasionally fearful, even paranoid. This volume was published in 1926, but almost immediately recalled and pulped by the publisher, at the request of the author, or possibly the authorities, depending on which story you believe. A few copies survive. Now, I'm always trying to remember, because I don't actually remember Volume 4 all that well. And it could be because I was unlucky in terms of the random draw of books, but I don't think I was. Or it's possible that this volume was added after the game was released. At which point, I sort of feel like this last bit is accounting for why there were only 3 volumes in an earlier version. I'll never know. I mean, maybe that's one for the AMA or something like that. But I know, like, some of this stuff kind of becomes a question in terms of, like, does, what counts as lore and what doesn't. But I do kind of think that some of this stuff is I don't know, they're fun. Like, there are some names of authors which have changed, and I suspect I know the reasons why, and those are ones I'm really not that interested in, in going into. But there are wow, I started saying there with 18 ths. There are just little changes that happen, and again, this is one of the fun things. One of the fun things about being with a game for such a long time, I find there's 2 paths for an early access game. And in fact, I think there are a number of fans of this game who are also fans of Sunless Sea. And so there have been both the positives and the negatives for these 2 related games, related by creative team. And one of the things that I heard about Sunless Sea, I'm actually not that familiar with the game. I've played a little bit of Fallen London, and I've played a bit of Sunless Sea, but I would not say that I have engaged very deeply with both. In fact, I was one of those people who bounced off quite early, or Sunless Sea quite early. So I think I was probably the target audience for Sunless Skies, but that's a separate issue. But I think one of the things I heard about Sunless Sea was that there was an early version of combat which was turn-based, and it really wasn't working. However, there were a number of players who were quite attached to the old combat system and didn't necessarily feel that the new one necessarily landed. And to be honest, I don't know if anybody's really all that happy with the new combat system. That may even just be a statement of relative improvement, but it's not really my place to say that, both as someone unfamiliar with the game and also, I don't know, it's easy for someone who plays games to sort of sit back and offer a critique. I largely do so without recognizing I do so without recognizing the constraints under which people were operating, especially if you're going to be making such a substantial change to go from a turn-based to a real-time system, and given the fact that there is a deadline for people to be hitting. These are these are just things that are going to come up. There's an infinite number of sort of perfect games that only ever exist inside someone's head. You have to deal with the realities of production, and that's just part of working with. The same with making a painting, right? If you can't physically represent the thing you want on a canvas with whatever you're using, it's only ever going to stay inside your head, and you're it doesn't really count as a paint. The thing in your head doesn't count as a painting. But it's fair to say that there's now a group of people, for all of the success of Sunless Sea, there's going to be a group of people who will say, yeah, that game had so much promise, and then they ruined it. And it's not even that they're necessarily wrong, because this is a matter of taste, right? The thing that they were anticipating and the thing that they signed on for is different than what was released, and they're unhappy about that. They had a set of expectations, and those expectations were created by the developer by going down one path, and the developer decided to go down another one. And it was probably the right choice given how successful it was, but it is fair to say that, everyone's not going to be on side with that. So this is the risk that you have when you play a game in early access, and certainly this would potentially be one that happened with Cultist Simulator. And I think also some people talk about a certain amount of fatigue for a game, where if you start playing a game in the early access and you don't have the full features, a lot of your early enthusiasm for the game sort of gets consumed, and there isn't always enough that's added to make that a kind of this enduring love. And that's true for some games. Like, some games I'll play and I'm probably not going to come back to them. I very much enjoyed Observer. I didn't think Observer was worth playing a second time so I could see the alternate ending. It's actually a trick that I'm not that fond of, that a few games are starting to do, where they don't give you the option to sort of revert to your previous save so that you can see what the second ending is, sort of in the name of extending the run. Like, I sort of feel if you're confident enough in your story, give me the option. I'll play the story again if I'm interested. But on the other hand, you have games like RimWorld or, Civilization, where you can imagine people just playing that over and over and over again. Perhaps those are more appropriate for early access games. So why am I talking about all of this, and what does this have to do with Cultist Simulator? Well, again, I don't know whether or not Volume 4 was added after the fact or not. Certainly there's been more DLC, and there's also been things such as the Apostle Legacies and that, which isn't necessarily DLC, but something that was added after the fact. And in the case of Cultist Simulator, for me, part of the fun is the fact that I was in early, and I got to see all of the different changes, and I got to see sort of what the original version of trying to get the cards to work together. Because again, it's worth remembering that these little hints, right? These weren't in the game originally. It was you really needed to sort of use some reason, or you'd just be miserable brute forcing every possible combination together. And for me, this is one of the things I've really enjoyed, just being able to sort of pick up, oh yes, I remember, it wasn't always Hosty Tasman. And in fact, I can remember specifically the Kickstarter email that that wanted to double check if that was the appropriate, if it was appropriate to use that name, and so on and so forth. So to me, this is one of the cases where I don't know if it quite counts as an early access period, but Kickstarter backer and so on. This was definitely something where I got a big reward in terms of playing Cultist Simulator early. But everybody's kind of got their own tastes, and more importantly, you're never going to know. Like, there's another history where Cultist Simulator maybe took a couple of directions that didn't mean something to me, and as a result, all of those opportunities for me to pick up on these little details would be gone in that case. In any case, I have kind of gone on at length. I didn't intend to spend so much time talking about it, but I tend to find, I think it's probably the effect of Twitter, where there's always going to be the worst interpretation of what you've said, and so I tend to notice I add lots of caveats, and I tend to try and spend a lot of time building the foundations for a claim. But I think I'm going to leave it here. I was wanting to read the book, but it would probably be better if I start the book and finish the book in the same session, just so that we can have the description and then the conclusion. So thank you everybody for watching. We should have one more video this week. This should be the Thursday video. So I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.